all part of the ownership principle. And what I mean is this: is that you could join a program or do some type of system where they measure the food. It could be shipped to your house. You could buy it in the supermarket already frozen and prepared, and they could tell you the calories and such. And it may not be a bad idea for losing weight temporarily, but I could tell you this unequivocally: if you do not own what you're going to do, you will not be able to do it for a long period of time. You will only be able to do it for a short season. You need to own it, because ownership eventually becomes habit. If you just do what I say I tell you to do, or you just buy something already prepared, you're not going to own it. You're just going to do it because somebody else is telling you to do it. You won't be able to teach another person. You could tell them, but you couldn't teach them. You couldn't have the ownership in your mind and in your heart in order to be able to continue to do this, because what you're going to learn is that we're learning to take whatever habits we have now and turn them into good habits of wellness. Now, the first thing that I would be looking at after this week is over of you recording the foods, and this is what I want you to look at and be honest, because if you're doing it by yourself, you need to be honest to yourself and accountable to yourself. Obviously, if you're seeing me, you're accountable to me. If you're seeing another practitioner or provider who is working with us in the Genesis Life Wellness Program, you'll need to be accountable to them. And ultimately, you need to be accountable to the Lord, because remember, this body that you have, this is a temporary shell. You're borrowing this, okay? So, if I'm going to lend you my car, I expect you to bring it back to me in the shape that I gave it to you, if not better. Maybe you want to take it to the car wash or vacuum it out. Don't be letting me, I give you my car and I come back and there's the birds were sitting on top of it and they left a mess and there's all cookies on the, better not be eating cookies, but there's some type of mess all over my seats. That's craziness, So this body you need to really be able to take care of. And what I would want to see at the end of the week, what you did that was good and what you did that was not good, what you did that was bad. And the reason for that is this, and I don't want to prompt you to, be real good the first week and, read the entire book and, change all your diet the first week to, impress me or impress yourself. Do what you normally do. Just be as, health conscious as you possibly could. Do what you think is health conscious, because what I want you to have, or I want you to experience, is what your habits do. Do you have some good habits now? You may look in the mirror and say, my goodness, I look like a big whale and I got my high blood pressure and I'm all sick and I know I got terrible habits. But you may have a couple of good habits. You may love to eat broccoli. You may love to put a ton of cheese on it, but you love to have broccoli. There's a start. There's some folks, I look at their food diary log week after week after week, and there's nothing green on there. Unless they had some, mold on their cheese, then there's nothing green. So I want to see what's good and I want to see what's bad, because the principle that we're going to deal with is understanding what your habits are. And understanding what your habits are of why you eat and what time you eat. That's why we're recording the time, to see what kind of habits you have as far as the time you're eating. And then later on in the program, there's a specific reason why we have time there. We have these, why time is vitally important to regulate metabolic function. But in the meantime, what I'm going to see is during specific times of the day, you may have a pattern of eating a certain type of food. And a lot of that refers back to a principle called the pain-pleasure principle. So, for example, if in the middle of the day you have like a meeting with your boss every day at 1 o'clock, and then every day at 1:30 I see you had a couple of donuts. Well, you know what? Your boss aggravated the daylights out of you. You were frustrated. You said to yourself, my goodness, my day is miserable. Let me get a little pleasure out of this pain and have myself a donut. Now, believe it or not, though I use that analogy could be for when you wake up in the morning. You need something to change your state. Or at night, if things are going bad, you may want to do something real quick in order to give some pleasure in the mix of all the pain that may be going on in your life. And here's where we have to psychologically put our brain back into gear with what our purpose is. Because our purpose is to give God the glory and give Him the honor for our wellness, okay? We can't be in a position where we're just as sick as the rest of the population. we have the scriptures that say that God is that Jesus is the great physician, and God is Jehovah Rapha, our healer, and then we're sick as everybody else on the planet. Now we need to count on the fact that we have the ability or the motivation, the empowerment by tapping into faith and putting ourselves in a covenant to believe that if we follow these rules that I'm going to be going throughout this wellness program, that God will be faithful, that if we're obedient to how this body works, we'll be healthy and be able to get in great shape. Okay? Now, when you look further on that food diary log at the end, there's 3 sections that say E, W, and S. Well, that's our exercise, and we could put a check in there, or if you want to put a notation in there, water for W, and if you did take your supplements. And we'll have a whole section on supplements later on in our program. If you need to check out our supplements, you go back on the website and look through it. We have a section on the supplements, what's in our supplements, and why I would recommend that we take supplements for the overall wellness of our body. Okay? Now, the sheet, and this is what I find out, not all the time, but on occasion, I'll have some folks that'll come back and say, well, Doc, I got so busy I couldn't fill out the sheet. I had one particular friend of mine, and he'll know who he is, who did real good the first couple of days of the first week. Put everything down, was recording everything, how it was prepared, and then as the week went on, sort of tailed off until nothing was going on the sheet. The key in the beginning to filling out that sheet is to create a level of accountability in order to complete the program. If you don't set yourself in a position to be accountable, and that's either with yourself, a buddy, and we'll get into that, maybe about getting a partner, or with your church group, or with another friend, or with another provider who's doing the Genesis Life Wellness Program, or get yourself up here to New York and sit down with me. Creating accountability is critical in order to get well, because it's not a matter of just doing this for a moment. It's learning how to do this for a lifetime, because the way it works is you become accountable, and then eventually you get so good at being accountable to someone that you can actually have people be accountable to you.